Just a few days away from the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Look at the Saturday matchups. Bills at Broncos, San Francisco at Seattle on Sunday. The Texans at the Patriots, and in the nightcap, LA against the Bears in Chicago. We got a lot to talk about here with both of these teams. So we've got our reporters on both sides, Lindsay Theory and Courtney Cronin. Courtney, we start with you. What is this Bears defense saying about slowing down that Rams offense, Matthew Stafford?
Well, Laura, the challenge here is the versatility that this Rams offense presents. They're the number one offense in the NFL. They do everything right, is what Kevin Byard said. And let's start with that run game. There's some similarities here that Byard drew from facing the 49ers run game a couple weeks ago, and even what the Bears do in their rushing attack. It's all of those misdirection runs that try to get your eyes as a defender out of the right place in somewhere where they shouldn't be, which allows those explosive gains. And then, of course, we know Puka Nacua is the target monster. They're expecting big volume to the Rams' number one receiver, as evident of the 18 targets that he had last week and the 11 catches, over 100 yards receiving. And he's a do-it-all type receiver. He had the rushing touchdown, he had the receiving touchdown. And with Davante Adams, Byard said, keep an eye on what happens inside the 5-yard line. If Matthew Stafford sees Davante Adams one-on-one and he knows he can get a good release, that ball is likely going there. But ultimately, the way that Matthew Stafford is playing right now is why the Rams are such a threat to this Bears defense. He led that game-winning drive there at the end of the game. Boom, boom, boom to Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and then Colby Parkinson for the game-winning touchdown. Grady Jarrett said you have to earn the opportunity to pass rush in this game. Yes, he dropped back 42 times last week, but the ball gets out so quickly each of those times that if Matthew Stafford does end up holding onto the ball longer than 2 seconds, they know that they have to get home and capitalize on those opportunities.
Great stuff, Courtney. I mean, as you know, this Bears defense has been able to take the ball away, so maybe they try to force some mistakes, but a grizzled vet like Matthew Stafford doesn't make many. Let's talk about Stafford a little bit more with Lindsay here, because he is dealing with that finger injury. He's expected to play, but what do we know about the state of the finger and how it could affect things?
State of the finger, great way to put it. Matthew Stafford could not seem any less bothered by the state of his finger. Now, just to be clear, the Rams did not practice today. They are only holding a walkthrough. But Stafford did talk with reporters for about 7 minutes, and I spent an inordinate amount of time during that news conference watching how he used his right index finger. He adjusted his hat, he knocked on the podium, he talked like a normal person using his hands, and it seemed very unbothered. I asked him about it. He said, my finger feels great. Now, the one caution could be because it's supposed to be very cold in Chicago. It's 80 degrees here today in Southern California, but how could that cold, the frigid temperatures affect a sprained finger? Well, Matthew Stafford also says he doesn't really think it'll affect it even if the ball is rock hard. And just to check on the receiving end of that, I asked Davante Adams if he was able to tell on Saturday that Matthew Stafford was playing with a sprained finger. Adams said, no, I had no idea. So, Laura, that is the state of the finger. Matthew Stafford says there's really nothing to tell there.
I love it. You were on Finger Watch today. Great work, Lindsay. You just never know what this job might bring your way. We'll see you on all the coverage. All right, Dan, any concerns about Stafford's? Well, there was a delay. All right, any concerns about Stafford's finger? The forecast, I don't want to make too much of the weather, right, but it is supposed to be bitter cold. The high of 20 degrees is going to feel like a lot colder.
No, I have no concerns.
Zero concerns. Writing that down.
I'm so shocked that he has no concerns about Matthew Stafford. Hawk, how?
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, actually me either, but.
Yeah, me either. It's just
I have no concerns.
All right, cool. Then I'm done with you. All right, Hawk, how are Davante Adams and Puka Nacua going to help Stafford out on Sunday? They've been such reliable targets.
Yeah, in every way possible, the same way that they have all year. If you're the Chicago Bears, it's simple. Try to mitigate these two wide receivers, because it's not just that they're good wideouts. It's that they're like having two other quarterback minds on the field, the way they see the defense, the same way that Matthew Stafford does. You see Puka Nacua here, who has a big dig at 22 yards is where he's getting his depth. Look where he catches this ball, Dan. Yeah. From the 24-yard line to the 32 where his feet get down. That's 8 yards negative because he knows he has to get that angle for Matt Stafford. Next year, you're going to see pressure on Davante Adams. He knows the pressure's there. He also knows where the coverage is coming from and knows he has to have an exit strategy on this linebacker. Also, come through in a negative angle, avoid contact, turns into a 19-yard gain. You're going to see Davante Adams one more time, again, across the middle of the field here. He's going to expect this ball in a first window out of this break. That's how it's designed. Not open. Matt Stafford sees that. He sees that under coverage. And watch how he adjusts the second window and, again, turns into a 23-yard gain. Now, when you have receivers that aren't just running the lines on the field, they're also seeing the defense the way a quarterback does and say, okay, here's what's designed, but here's where the opportunity is. It's really hard to stop, and most times it's impossible because there's always something open.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting from Chicago's perspective of do they play zone or man. They played a ton of man in the second half last week versus Green Bay, and it really helped them. There were plays to be made. Now the pressure got home to Jordan Love. I want to ask you this. So one of the things that the Rams offensively have gone to out of two of your clips, it was the example of they take Parkinson, put him by himself, and then they've taken Devontae and Puka and put them together opposite him. And so from the receiver's perspective, because quarterback, we're always taught tight end by himself. I want you to look at the person who's covering him. If it's a defensive back, you're thinking it's zone. Like a corner, you're thinking it's zone. If it's a linebacker, if it's a safety, if it's Kevin Byard, you're thinking man. Do you think those receivers are doing the same thing of trying to get that information pre-snap, and then will it impact the way that they run their route post-snap?
Absolutely, because how you run man routes versus how you run zone routes are completely different, right? Man-to-man, it's obvious it's man-to-man, but I'm doing everything in my power to get to a point and separate away from defenders. When it's zone, it's different because now you're looking at timing and you're looking at where the hole in the defense is. So when you watch Puka on that dig route inside where he comes down 8 yards to a negative angle, which I can't overstate how impressive, but how rare that is. He understands that if he goes flat on that, that's a bang-bang play or a pass breakup. So I'm trying to get to this point in the field on a route that is not designed for me to get to that hole.
I also think those two are probably two of the better zone route runners in the league. You know, when it comes to just the understanding of when you're coming out of your break, peeking inside, is there a bad guy in there or not? Am I running through that window or am I settling in that window? So I think that's an element. Also, the no-look from Stafford in that stuff, of their awareness of –
yeah, you're holding people.
He's going to be moving those guys. So, like, you got to keep running to those windows even though it's zone, right?
And that's why there's three quarterbacks. Because, yes, you got to keep running. But even on the Devontae Adams, where the pressure comes and the coverage is coming from a cop-out, you notice his head is here the entire time because I can't let them know where I'm going. Stafford knows where I'm going to be. I know where I'm going to be. But the way he manipulates his eyes is the same way the receivers manipulate their eyes.
And it's fascinating because as good as Stafford would be, those guys really do make such a difference being on the same page with him. You see it all the time. It's massive. All right, back to our top stories today, beginning with the news of the day. We talked a lot about this earlier, but John Harbaugh meeting today with the New York Giants. This is Harbaugh.